Shalom, everyone. This is Teddy Wilson once again with Seekers of Yahweh Ministries, and I just want to go ahead and put everybody up to speed on what's happening. I just had my second conversation with the local authorities here through a conference call, and so they are telling me that it is punishable. It's a criminal offense to keep Passover or congregate anywhere, which the stuff's going on everywhere around us. It's just this assembly is in the spotlight for some reason. But I know people in 4 counties that are keeping keeping the Passover gathered in various different places. However, this assembly is directly under attack, and that's fine. This means we're doing something right. So they are having me go to read what the punishments are, and the punishments can be anybody who's here, including myself, can be fined, arrested, amongst a few other things. They have several different things in order. So this is where I'm at. I'm not closing the doors. I'm not, as a man of Yahweh, I have no right to shut the doors of Yahweh's assembly. So all of you already know the restrictions that I've set in order, and those will remain. But it's up to you. If you guys make the trip, I want you to know this is what we're looking at. That's why I'm posting both conversations that I had with the local law enforcement, so that you can be the judge. As soon as you listen to these things, they're about 30 minutes long each. You just contact me and let me know if you are still coming, and we'll go from there. But there is a potential type of prosecution and definitely persecution that is going down that very well may happen if you make the trip. But we will first honor Yahweh here at Seekers. We are going to stand by the commandments of Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel. So you can listen to the conversations. Get a hold of me and let me know if you're still coming or what you plan to do. So may Yahweh bless and keep each and every one of you. And I'm going to leave the comment section open underneath these. You guys give me some feedback and let me know what you think. May Yahweh bless and keep each and every one of you. And may the kingdom of Yahweh be exalted by his people. Shalom, shalom. Hello.
Hey.
What's going on?
Nothing. Let's talk about your Passover, dude.
Okay. Well, just so you know, my mom's here, my wife and me, and the call's being recorded.
Okay, sounds good. So, just wanted to talk to you about the services this weekend. Because I think is it this weekend?
Oh, no. It's still a week out.
It's still a week out. So, what date are we talking about on that one?
Passover starts the 8th,
okay.
And unleavened bread is over on the 15th.
Okay, so the 8th to the 15th?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just closing some things up here. And opening up some other stuff. My internet will work. Hopefully everybody's doing okay?
No, it's good.
Okay, good. Okay, so I'm trying to pull up the governor's orders. Is what I'm trying to pull up, Teddy, real quick. And I'm sure have you read through the orders? Have you guys read through those orders?
Yes, I have. And Jason, yes, I have. And Jason, I want you to know we're taking serious precautions here. Nobody's going to be allowed in town. Nobody's going to be allowed in town. We have purchased. It took so long to find disinfectant. Everything's going to be disinfected. There's a bunch of people not coming because of the virus. So we were expecting 30 to 40 people, and it's not going to be anywhere near that. No way.
Okay.
And I see that.
Okay, well,
I see.
Obviously, that's why I'm reaching out today, is because of the safety factor. Right? I mean, this is obviously this virus is nothing to play with.
Yeah.
Especially for those that are, we're watching the statistics come in, and we're seeing the elderly are being the hardest hit, right?
Right. Yep.
The ages of the individuals that are the ages of the individuals, nobody is exempt at this point.
Right.
From newborns through, and I think if I'm watching the statistics, I haven't seen anybody diagnosed between the ages of I haven't seen any toddlers or anybody diagnosed up into their teens.
Right.
Seems to be 16. I've seen 16 and above from there, and then infants, of course.
Yep.
And so, and just so you guys know, I'm not calling you to try to vamp out or put any hindrances upon your religious freedoms.
Yeah.
That's the last. I think you've known me long enough to know that I'm not going to try to squash that out.
Right. Well, Jason, so, I want you to know something. I respect you, and the only reason I'm recording this is because I have seen on social media some of the things that's going on, where people have gathered, and in other countries especially, where they're getting beat and whipped for what they believe. And it's sad, brother. It's sad to see it. Right. That's the only reason why I'm doing this. I want you to know that
it's okay. Teddy, it's okay, because I know it was a one-party consent state, and I appreciate you letting me know that you're recording. And I'm good with it. I'm good with it, because I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to say anything to you. First off, I would be speaking to you the same way, even if I wasn't being recorded. Okay, so I mean.
Well, no, I would. That's why I asked you to come by. I wouldn't have had to do this, because I don't know. What...
To be honest with you, dude. I really, as much as I like to visit with you and I like to be in your company, I certainly don't want to bring anything to you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the last thing I want to do is bring something to you, especially with the people that today I've had contact with more people than I would have wanted to have contact with today.
Okay.
Because the world is just turning into a crazy place. And so, you laugh.
No, you have no idea. I've been on the phone since I woke up. I've been on conference calls and the telephone since I woke up. It's insane. The fear that is in people right now from this virus, and believe me, we're not taking it lightly. And outside, we've got rules set in order. If you want to know those rules and you want to submit them to the district attorney or whatever you think we need to do, I'm all for it. But we've already set it in order. The people that are coming, there's very few. There's like I said, the majority of people got scared from the virus and canceled anyway. However, everybody's confined to quarters. There's no walking to the store. There's no going to the post office. There's nothing. Everybody's going to be confined once they get here until the day they leave.
Right now, where is, so I know you generally for Passover, you have people coming in from all over, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And so in that, I think there's some nerves that are being kind of plucked at because there is people coming in from out of the area.
Well, some of the.
Understand that. I know you can understand that.
Well, just so you know, we actually have a family that's moving here right now from down south, and I mean they're moving. So they've already rented a place up here in that little condo place next to Earl Strybeck. Not Earl, but JR. They've already rented the place, and they've already came up here and signed the lease and everything like that. So those people, and they're black, just so you know.
I met them. I met them at the store. They're from Boise, and there was I think there was 4 or 5 of them.
Yep.
And I met the mother, and because I was actually at the store, and they were over there, and I said, told them good morning, I was actually afternoon. I'm like, good afternoon. And you guys just shopping around, and they said, no, we're here to see Teddy. And I'm like, fantastic. Tell them I said hi. So here's now. I mean, obviously, Teddy, I'm not coming at you with whips and clubs and any of that. We live in the United States of America. We have freedoms. We have freedoms in the United States of America. And I have to have a lawful reason to interfere or to get involved into something. Now, according to the order that was set out by the governor, there is a statute that prohibits. There's a statute that prohibits gatherings and assemblies. Now, here's the thing, though, is I think you look at your right to assemble, right? I mean, that's a God-given. I'm going to say a God-given right. Okay. Your right to assemble. I know that there are other churches and so forth that are gathering as well, that are still coming together. I mean, obviously, this order was put into place to keep people from coming together to prevent the spread and to curb the spread of the virus.
Right.
You said you have a list or a list of guidelines that you're going to be following. Can you email that to me?
I will.
And then I will kick it over to my prosecutor and let my prosecutor look at it.
Okay.
And then my next question would be: is there any way that you guys can do anything? I mean, how many people are you expecting, Teddy?
Right now, there's just us that live here, and I think there's 13. Yeah, there's 13 total. I mean, we're just
including family.
Yeah, and so we're just like, I was looking at the mandate, and there was only I think there was a limit of 10 in gathering is what we've seen, and so I mean that's the numbers we have right now. And like I said, most people canceled, but here's where I stand. I want this to be noted.
Sure.
And I think that the DA he knows what we believe. I'm sure. Great guy. But here's where I, as a man of Yahweh, we take things a little bit more seriously than most churches do. And I, Teddy Wilson, do not have the right to cancel Passover. I do not. It's not even. I can't even. There's just no way. That would mean my decision as a servant to call off the coming together to break that bread and drink that cup. That if I call it off, I am actually speaking against the king that I worship.
Sure.
And I cannot in any way, shape, or form override the word of Yahweh, the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, if other people want to try to do that, that's fine. That's between them and him. But as a servant of Yahweh, I just want everybody to know this is where I stand. I don't want anybody to be sick. But I believe that if I were to call everybody and say, look, it's canceled, then they're going to lose their money, then they're this or that or whatever. If I was to give them any reason whatsoever, I would be a covenant breaker, I would be a commandment breaker, and I myself would be in jeopardy of losing everything that Yahweh has put me in authority of here at this assembly. I mean, the fact of the matter is, I think the world, everybody needs to get together and do Passover, and this plague would be gone. It would be gone, Jason, if we would all come together and pray and repent as a people. I mean, that's what we need. We need healing, bro.
I know, and I know we need healing, and I love what you stand for, and I love the fact that you are so devoted to what you do. And
Jason, you don't even have a clue what's happening. You don't even understand what's happening to this world right now. You don't. I mean, you see what's happening. But what I'm saying is the reason behind it. The reason behind it is changeable. Every time there's been a plague on this earth, Yahweh gave the people, especially like look back at Egypt. He said, if you let my people go, if you repent and let my people go, let them go, just let my people go, you know what? These plagues will stop. And I believe the word. I believe it, Jason, with all my heart. And I respect you, man. I do. As a matter of fact, I consider you a friend of mine. But I mean, for me to sit here,
I consider you a friend.
I can't cancel Passover. I don't have the authority to do it.
And I'm Teddy. Here's the deal. I'm not on the phone with you to say, hey, you need to cancel this. That's not what I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to infringe upon your right to religious freedom. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, and again, questions I was going to ask, is there any way that you can do this Passover? And forgive me for being naive when it comes down to the way that the way that your traditions are and your gospel and so forth, and I'm naive on that side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll have to forgive me for that side of it. But is there any way that you can do this where people are separated, where people are, can you do it with people maybe still in the area, but do it via, on handheld devices or something in that nature? I mean, my fear, Teddy, this is my fear. And so,
Mm-hmm.
You expressed to me how solid rooted you are in this and how your foundation is. And you should know that my concern is always going to be the welfare of people.
Yep.
That is always going to be my concern.
Yep.
And when it comes down to the welfare involving this virus, and I know some of the people that are going to attend Passover are elderly. I know that. There's a gentleman that's living in the apartment that Ben was working on. Isn't he a member as well? Does he attend?
Oh yeah, he's like, yeah, he's our neighbor.
Right. And so, when I saw him and I was talking to Ben about him, I'm like, Ben, this guy, you shouldn't be here, buddy. Being this close to this guy, because giving him, if this virus were to pass on to him, I would be extremely, I would be upset and filled with sorrow, because it's going to take, it's taking our elderly from us.
Mm-hmm.
Is what it's doing. It's taking that wisdom, that generation that is so strong that has been so strong within our nation, and so that is my fear, Teddy, and that's I'm just going to express it. That is my fear, is that this virus, and trust me, we are praying, and we are having at home services with the blessings of those that are ordained in our church,
mm-hmm.
and we are wanting this to be squashed as well. And
right.
But we're also recognizing the fact that if we come together as a congregation, there's a chance that we are going to put somebody in harm's way.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what.
And that's where we don't want to.
I'll tell you what. Everybody that comes here already knows about the virus. In my humble opinion, everybody around here has already had it, and I got my reasons to believe that. All the way from November, December, and January, there were people falling out around here sick. This virus has been around a lot longer than many would like to report, because it makes our government look bad. But I've had actually 2 doctors, one personally from Meridian, tell me that this thing has been around our area in the state of Idaho a lot longer than they know. There has been people that just never got tested. We had people in 3 states who had, 3 counties between November and now that had pneumonia to the point where they were going to die. And I'm not using this as a reason. I'm just saying I think we're dealing with something that's been around a lot longer than we've been told. So, having said that, the people that come here know that the virus is out there. If Leonard feels there is a fear, you better bet he'll stay home. And again, nobody is even allowed to go anywhere. We're going to be self-quarantined during this whole thing. As a matter of fact, it's going to be mandatory. We've already got the little squeeze bottles for the hand sanitizer. This stuff is expensive right now, believe me. And hand sanitizers, stuff. The thing where the virus hits you first, it incubates in your throat for 3 to 4 days. So we're providing things that cleanse the throat area for the people who are going to be here as well. And it's mandatory that you take it. You don't take it, you can't come in. And you'll just sit here until it's time for you to go back home. We're that serious about it. Your hands are to be clean at every, I mean, we're really going into a type of self-quarantine that would be no different than if they were at home. So I want to write down all this stuff and send it to you so that you can run it by the district attorney. Like I said, we're only...
Which I would like to do. Yes,
okay.
Which I would like to do, Teddy, because when you go to, and I don't know if you've read this part, but there's a page on here where it talks about additional guidance on statewide stay-at-home orders, and there's a part on here where it talks specifically about churches. And the question addressed to the state of Idaho is: may clergy or church members get together to stream or record religious services? The answer that the state has given is yes. The recording or streaming should be done by the minimum number of individuals necessary, following social distancing requirements. Mm-hmm. And then it states, I am grateful to Idaho's religious leaders for caring for the spiritual needs of their congregations during this challenging time. So, yes, you can stream it. It says be done by the minimum numbers of individuals necessary, following social distance guidelines or social distance requirements.
Well, right, but
that's directly off the website, off the state's website.
Okay. Well, what I was looking at, the one I was looking at was where he gave the order, the video and everything underneath it. There was a limit of 10.
Right. This one that I'm reading, and this is just under the additional guidance from the Idaho official the resources for the novel coronavirus COVID-19, and it's under additional guidance of statewide stay-at-home order. And it also talks about golf and logging and milling and car dealerships and recreation and blah, 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 blah. So forth and so on. Things that, in this point, it doesn't really...
right, but are those mandated as law? Do we have a penal code section on them? You know, where are they at?
There is a penal code, which is a directive through the Department of Health and Welfare.
Right, but is it a lawful penal code section persecutable or prosecutable by federal or municipal judges?
It is, and so it is a misdemeanor statute in the Idaho state statutes. I don't have the state code right off. I can get it. You don't mind staying on phone with me for a second, do you?
No, go ahead.
Okay. That way, I'm going to see if I can find the statute for you, and I'll even give you the statute number. Hang on here, dude. It's been a busy day already. So my brain is reeling, and let's see. All right. I'm looking, man.
All right.
No, that's not it. Okay, I may have to go back through my emails because I know I've got it in my emails. Because it got sent out to us by the state. So, and then once I can kick that code down to you, and I can email it to you.
All right. Well, so here's the difference between. That's why we don't call ourselves a church. We're not a 501. We're not tax exempt. We pay our bills, and this is one of the reasons why. Because normally this stuff is going to fall underneath religious factions, and that would include everybody from anybody who's 501. It doesn't matter if it's Islam, Buddhism, or whoever they are. Through the nonprofit exemption number, they control everything. That's why we've never done that. Now, because I have a penal code section here. Okay, I'm gonna. All right. I got a penal code section. Let's see. It's in Leviticus 23. Verses 1 through 7, no 8. It says specifically in the English Bible that Yahweh spoke to Moses, and we follow the commandments of Moses, or that Yahweh gave to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel, and I am an Israelite." So is everybody that gathers here. We've been baptized into the body of Israel through Yahshua Messiah. It says, "Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, the appointed times of Yahweh, which you are to proclaim as a set-apart gathering, my appointed times are these. 6 days work is done. The 7th day is a Sabbath of rest. It is a set-apart gathering. And you do no work. It is a Sabbath of Yahweh in all your dwellings. And this is the appointed times of Yahweh, set-apart gatherings, which you are to proclaim at their appointed times. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, between evenings, is the Passover to Yahweh. And on the 15th day of this month is the festival of unleavened bread to Yahweh. 7 days you eat unleavened bread. On the first day you have a set-apart gathering, and you do no servile work, and you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh for 7 days. On the 7th day, it is a set-apart gathering to you." Now, that's what it says in the English Bible, Jason. Now, when you read this in the Hebrew, or in most English Bibles, it calls the set-apart gatherings holy convocations. And if you look up that holy convocation in the Hebrew, it's Mikra HaKodesh. And Mikra, it's not just an appointed time. It is a commanded gathering that every male especially must take part of 3 times a year, and this is one of those feasts. So the one that we worship tells us, and we are commanded to come together and gather. Mikra means a coming together, a gathering together to read the Torah scroll. So that's what I'm presenting to you, is that I don't have the authority, and I don't believe any man has the authority to annul that at any time period. Now, again, the first and foremost thing I will do is follow what Yahweh has told me to do. Before anything else, I must attempt to follow His word. And those who want to do the same, we are commanded at this time to break bread, drink of the cup, wash feet, and remember that Passover day. It is a command. So that is our intent. Even if there are some type of stipulations that are going to be made about what's taking place, that will have to be between whatever conversation takes place from here on out. Because, I mean, at this point, I don't have the right, nor does anyone else, to annul the command of the Creator to not gather. So it's under those principles that I told everyone, look, I understand what's going on. If you're scared, as a matter of fact, I sent out an email and I told everybody, if you're sick, if you're sneezing, if you're coughing or anything, don't come. We don't want you coming. And so we've already had, yesterday I had 3 people call me and say, well, I was thinking about still coming, but I'm sick. And I said, please don't come. So we had 3 cancellations just yesterday alone. And there might be more. There might even be more, Jason, before before next week. You know, I really don't see a problem here. Again, I'll send you all of our plans to keep everybody in quarters. And I sure wish we had some test kits. But they,
good luck, buddy. I can't even get them.
well, that's what I mean. So again, I want you to know I'm taking every precaution. The people here won't even, and my wife and I, and my mom are even willing to self-quarantine for another, whatever they call it. I guess it was a 10 day or a 2-week period after they leave.
Yeah, it's 14 days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Which we've already been across the United States and back, and that's, bro, I've seen no dangers, and I think and I don't say that to say, hey, you need to let us do this or whatever. I'm saying that what we are doing is working, in my opinion, and we got the best prices on gasoline and motel rooms. We got king suites for $68.
Right, that's what you're saying. Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, and we hardly ever seen anybody even walking around in a motel. It was. So I think we're making leaps and bounds, and we do want to assure everybody that we are not recklessly just bringing in anybody and cutting them loose in town. It's not going to happen.
Well, and that is obviously my phone rang, right, because somebody heard.
You're right.
And that was a concern that came up is, that people were going to be coming in from out of town. At this point, could there be cases walking around the city? Sure. I mean, there could be cases walking around us right now. And we haven't had a diagnosed or publicly released case at this point.
Right.
And I guarantee you the minute that we do, things are going to change dramatically within our area.
Right.
And people do not want to see that reality. I don't want to see that reality. I would love to be able to be one of those counties within the state of Idaho that continues to go on without a diagnosed case. I would love that. Is that a reality? I'd like to be hopeful and say that would be very cool if that didn't happen. But the reality is that more than likely it's going to happen. It's going to happen that there's going to be a diagnosed case, and then there's going to be another one, and then there's going to be another one, and another one, and so forth and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I admire your foundation, and I admire how strong your beliefs and the way that you teach and what you do. I'm just concerned for you and the people that are coming, and of course the people that are around. So what I'd like to do is, you said that you would send me the guidelines that you guys are going to practice while Passover is going to be going on.
Okay.
If you would be kind enough to grab a pen and take down my email address and email that to me, I would be very grateful.
Well, can you text? Can you text it?
What's that?
If you can text it, I can just copy.
I can text it to you. Yeah, I can text it to you.
That way, I can just copy and paste it.
I will text you my email address, and then if you can type me something up real quick or scan it, email, whatever you've got, and get it to me, and then I can. Once I get that, I will contact my prosecutor, who is, he's of the same faith, right?
Yeah.
He observes Passover and so forth, so I'm sure he will be starting on the 8th.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that he will probably be doing it alone. Because he has decided to try to take himself out of the risk pool.
Right.
So, give me that. I will text you my email address, and then we will talk more when I can. Once the craziness around us slows down a little bit.
Okay.
So, okay.
All right.
So, and tell your wife, well, if your wife's listening, hello, and your mother, hello.
She said hello.
So, talk more soon, bud.
All right. Thank you. Yahweh bless.
All right. Hey, thanks, Jared.
All right.
See you, man.
Shalom.
Bye-bye.
Well, it's all stated then.
Yep. That was our Sheriff Jason Davis.
Good guy.
Good guy. Love him. He's only doing his job. So we just ask that Yahweh would move upon the heart of this district attorney. Praise Yah. Hello.
Hey, hang on. I'm going to merge calls, okay?
All right.
Zach, are you there? I am. Teddy, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so just so we're clear, Sheriff Jason Davis, Teddy Wilson, and Lieutenant Prosecutor Zachary Paul are all on the conference call.
All right.
Hey, Teddy.
Shalom, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. All things considered,
All right. So I wanted to be clear. I've been recording the calls, and it's for the purpose of forwarding information to the people on our email list in case, like I said, I actually texted Jason this morning because we had even more cancellations. I don't even know if there's going to be anybody left that's making the trip by the time Passover actually gets here. So that's kind of where we're at right now, and I'm willing to talk with you about anything you want to talk about, respectfully.
Thanks for making the time to take this call. I know our previous conversation, I can't remember if that was Monday or Tuesday. My days are tying together now, so I don't know what day is what anymore. I do know. I think today is Thursday, so I think we're good there. But I certainly appreciate you taking the time to take this call. You and I had a pretty good conversation. I did talk to Zach about our previous conversation, where you had expressed your devotion and the where you were laying in reference to Passover. I also expressed to Zach that where I laid and expressing my concerns about health and safety.
Uh-huh.
Also, that I did express to Zach as well, and you're aware of this day that during our conversation, I made it very clear that in these conversations, we are certainly not. I am certainly not trying to diminish any of your or take away from your religious freedoms in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. And so, with that being said, I did get a copy of the entire. I got a copy of the entire order from the Department of Health and Welfare, and there are parts within this order that go directly towards religious services, and that's probably where I would ask Zach to come in at this point and talk about the matter.
All right.
So the order does not exempt religious organizations from the order, and so it says what it says, which is that gathering that even religious congregations fall under this quarantine order. And I guess I'd like to back up, and I guess one of our concerns, our biggest concern, is the safety of everybody in the community, and the safety of your congregants, and the safety of everyone else in Craigmont and in Lewis County, and frankly everybody everywhere is our concern.
Right.
And given how fast this spreads, and the fact that we've seen around the world that there are religious groups that are, where this has been a nexus for its spread, I think, I guess my request, and Jason will speak for himself, but that you pray hard on this, because I don't know all of what you have planned, but the notion
Mm-hmm.
And so, whether it's within Christian tradition, Jewish tradition, there's a strong commitment to the preservation of life.
Mm-hmm.
And Judaism, that overrides all other obligations.
Right.
And so, I look around the world myself, and I see what's going on in Israel, and the fact that you have many, many Orthodox communities who are doing what we're asking of people. And in fact, the orders in Israel are much stricter than they are here. And so, I would ask that you pray hard on this one, because it has the potential to endanger everyone, including your congregation.
Right. I agree with you. Do I refer to you as Zach, or would you prefer something? Yeah. Okay. So Zach, I have prayed continually, and as a matter of fact, we were studying Hebrew in the assembly right after I spoke with Jason the other day, and I kid you not, minutes after we prayed, this building shook. And there was only 3 or 4 of us, but still, when we were done, and the building shook, everybody, there was silence. I believe that Yahweh, I pray that doesn't offend you. I always use the proper name. I prayed that Yahweh would, that it's in His hands. If people show up here, then the door was open. But I have watched Him, because I don't want you to think I'm disrespecting or disregarding the situation at all, because it is serious. But the fact of the matter is, I'm around my mother every day. I'm around my wife every day. I'm around Brother Leonard every day, and I'm in contact now and again with other brothers and sisters in the local area. I can't stop praying for people. I can't stop doing what I'm doing. And I also believe that if, like I was addressing this with Jason just the other day, I believe that if we had a worldwide repentance, that this stuff would go away. Now I'm probably sure that you guys would agree with that, and that's really not the issue. The issue on my part is, I feel that I would be dishonoring, disrespecting, and not only that, but having more of a regard for the commandments of men rather than the commandments of Yah, if I said, hey, I have to cancel Passover. My word, the debarim, the words of my mouth, would be exalted over the debarim, or the words of the Torah, the Torot, the instructions of Yah Almighty, and I can't do that. And I know that it's putting things in jeopardy with the security of my being free. I don't know what the consequences will be, but I don't even really want to think about it. All I want to do is my job as a minister of Yahweh. And in doing that, I believe, Zach, that we can do because I don't want anybody in the community sick. And like I told Jason the other day, I've spoken to doctors and other people in law enforcement throughout the United States, and most people are starting to come to grips that, you know what? I believe that this thing's been around a lot longer than they told us, and I believe that most everybody in town has already been exposed to it. And I'm not using that as a as a reason to just disregard things. I'm just saying that's. I know people that were sick with pneumonia, 2 or 3 counties around us during that time period, through November through January, and but Nevertheless, I mean, we have sunk hundreds. Literally like $180 we sunk into buying stuff online to disinfect everything, to keep everybody. We've got hydrogen peroxide. I'm talking food grade hydrogen peroxide. We've got, I mean, and we have diffusers going.
I'm going to interrupt you here because it's not, the concern is the gathering itself.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not asking that you cease to pray or cease to be observant and to encourage the observance of all of your fellow congregants. But we are asking that, and honestly, you know, at some level it comes down to, this is the law and we are going to enforce it. But the reason why the law is there is out of concern for everyone in the community. And I think, you know, the sheriff's office and law enforcement will need to make the decisions that they need to make. But you're not exempt. And I understand that you think that, you know, that would be bowing to whatever, bowing to the civil leadership and this is why I asked you to go back and pray, is because I personally don't believe that God is asking that. And I think that there's a lot of scriptural and textual belief to say that the preservation of life is more important.
Okay.
And so that they're, you know, not to cancel it, but to make other arrangements so that you don't have to be in the same place at the same time, so that people don't have to travel a long distance and potentially spread it into this community.
And if you guys don't mind me interjecting, and see, Teddy, that's where, you know, I also reached out to individuals as well, of different faiths and very wise men. Teddy, you know, you and I have had religious conversations in the past. You know where I stand and where I'm at and what religion I practice.
Mm-hmm.
And we, as strong of a faith that we have in what we practice, our church, our leaders, and those that we call our prophets have come forth and said, we do not want this to spread. We want our members to be safe. We want you. You do not need to come here to worship, and you can do this from a remote location. You can teach these things within your home, and you can do these things. Now, of course, the religion the faith that I practice is not the same faith that you practice, Eddie, and I'm not trying to compare them at all. What I am trying to get at is that there are options out there, bud. There are options out there that this can still happen. It's just like Zach has expressed it, and I expressed to you before, and I'll express it again. It is a concern for the safety and the welfare of all the people. And I think Zach hit it on perfectly. I didn't even think about the portion of people traveling great distances and coming into and stopping in multiple communities along the way potentially. You know, here I am focused on just our communities, just here locally, and I should be thinking more. I should be thinking outside the box and more. You know, if you've got individuals that are traveling from distant places, they do have to stop at some point. They are going to have to stop at some point, and so I think you and I touched on this a little bit when we talked, Teddy, the last time. And if I'm wrong, you can correct me on it and set me straight on it. But I think we briefly touched on about video. Is there any way to do this through video, or any way to do this, you know, to where people can be separated, but still honor what you are so deeply impassioned about honoring, Teddy?
No,
go ahead, Teddy.
No, actually, if it was a Shabbat service, that would be feasible. Actually, if it was a Erev Shabbat service, we do this every week. Erev Shabbat live. We also do our Sabbath service live. Now, but this is a totally different thing. We're not in Egypt anymore. We've been scattered abroad. I'm an Israelite. I am grafted into Israel. I believe that I have, at some point, somebody at Mount Sinai has stood up in my stead and said, I do, to the marriage covenant between Yahweh and Israel. And in so doing, I have waken up in the nations after many trials and tribulations and a life full of gang banging and all this stuff. And I look at the command after they went into the land, and they was also prophesied that they would go be scattered into the nations after they went into the land. They told Abraham that your people will be scattered into the nations. They will be in bondage for 400 years. I mean, it was all prophesied. So all of the stipulations of the Torah were given not only to those individuals that were in the land, but to their seed that would be scattered into the nations. So when I sit down and read Leviticus, this is a law that was given by the creator and maker of all living things. When I read the book of Leviticus and other passages like it, I see him command when you go into the land, and they're supposed to gather where Yahweh chooses to make his name dwell, which puts this assembly, underneath a huge microscope to people who are studying the Hebrew and looking at the Torah because it bears his name. Now, I happen to be the overseer of that, and I didn't ask for the position. It's just there, but let me explain. Now, so the stipulations of following the command to gather, it says a holy convocation in the English Bible. That's not what it says in the Hebrew. It says you shall ha mikra. Mikra means it is a commanded gathering where you meet together, not online, where you gather together and you read the Torah scroll. So that is what I'm saying. I can't change that. Nobody has the right to override the rules that was given to Yahweh's people. Now, having said that, what do you guys want me to do? I mean, what are you going to enforce? Let's just get it out of the way, because I'm going to tell you right now, we only have 2 children and 3 adults that I know of. They're going to make this trip, other than the people that already live here. They already live here. And some of them are staying home out there, the Millers and all of them. Most of them are all staying home. There's more contact going through the store, and people are leaving every day and going down the hill to Washington every day. I mean, it's just absurd to think that what we're doing right here with less than a dozen people can be any more dangerous than everybody going down to Washington and going into Walmart every day. Every time I go in there, I see people from Craigmont. It's insane.
And I understand that, but the difference is, so, I mean, you know what I do. You know what I do for a living. You know what I do. I took an oath to support the Constitution. I took an oath for the United States Constitution and the Idaho Constitution. And in the order that was presented by the governor of the state of Idaho, it says that people can travel freely to go and get the essential needs. They can go and to Walmart and get food, and that is.
But they're leaving the state, Jason. That's the problem.
That is their choice to go down and do what they're doing. All right, that is their choice. If they're going into an affected area and doing so, that is their choice to do so. But all in the same hand, in the order, they're given the direction and saying, you can do this. You can go down and do this. But in that same order, it clearly states that all people in Idaho shall immediately cease hosting and participating in all public and private gatherings and multi-person activities for social, spiritual, and recreational purposes, regardless of the number of the people involved. And so...
okay. I get that. I totally do. But I'm looking at the Constitution right now, online. And it is clearly a separation of state law from the church. It is clearly our constitutional right to gather and not be, and I know everybody's saying that they're not, coming against religious factions, but that's exactly what's happening. Because you can go to Walmart where there's 100 or more people in the store at any given time, but you cannot gather in small groups even, the number of 10. It is discriminating against our practice to keep the Torah.
So, Daddy, like, I don't know that this is an argument we're gonna resolve today. I think,
Believe me, Zach, please let me make it clear. I'm not arguing with you either. I don't want you to think I'm arguing with you.
Let me finish. So, I think it's not. You obviously have beliefs about what is required of you, and I think our request today is to think seriously about what those are in light of what's out. The danger that you're placing your own community in, and whether there are ways of fulfilling what you believe to be your obligation without bringing people together in violation of this order. And if you decide that there's no way to do that, then that's something that the sheriff will have to cross when we get there.
Well, that's what I'm asking. I mean, okay, because I need to know what are we looking at? What's going to happen? I want to be able to say to the people who are planning to come here, look, this is what we're looking at, because they're coming. I can't stop them. You guys might be able to stop them at the county line, but I cannot stop these people. I mean, they are that dead set on keeping the feast. So what do? Lock them out when they get here? I mean, come on, you guys. Work with me here. I'm not, as a matter of fact, like I was telling Jason, everybody is self-quarantined. Nobody can go to the store. Nobody can go anywhere other than right here. There's nowhere else they can go. And we're going to self-quarantine for 2 weeks when they leave. So, I mean, I just, I'm trying to fulfill my obligation as a man of Yahweh and protect the community. And I believe when you bring people together to pray, there's strength and power in numbers. And I think that's what Yahweh is trying to get the world's attention about right now. There's not enough praying going on. There's enough division. There's enough hate and everything else. I'm out of love trying to execute both of my obligations as not only a citizen of the county of Lewis and the city of Craigmont. To take every precaution to keep people healthy is my first goal. But also I must fulfill my obligation to Yahweh first before anything else. So I want to know what am I in danger of by doing that? What is the law going to do to me if we have a handful of people here that are self-quarantined the whole time to keep the Passover? They're not even staying, is the thing.
Zach, are you comfortable with me? I can read right off the order from the Department of Health in reference to what the punishments are.
Yeah.
Okay, so according to the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, the order of the director, Teddy, from the order to self-isolate dated as of March 25th, 2020, the violation of or failure to comply with the order could constitute a misdemeanor punishable by fine, imprisonment, or both, according to Idaho Code 56-103, subsection 7 and subsection C. So that's what is on the order, Teddy.
Mm-hmm.
As far as punishments.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Hang on. Exactly. I just got to tell her to hang up my phone. She's trying to call in the background. Hang on. Okay, sorry about that, guys.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the direct answer to your question, Teddy.
Right. Okay. I appreciate that.
So I guess at this point, are we I'm wondering if we're at an impasse, or if this is something we can talk more about. I'm really hopeful that there's a way that that something can be done, Teddy. I am in complete agreement with you in reference to prayer. I think prayer is very strong. I think prayer is essential, and I think that prayer is something that people need to exercise more of.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also very passionate about when an order comes out to me and to our agency for the protection of, I've said it from the day that I took office that my goal and one of my highest priorities is the protection of life and property. And this order that has been handed down by the government is a direct order from the governor in reference to the protection of life. And that's where, when it comes down to this order that and the governor has commanded us that we will enforce this. And I did take my oath of office. I did take the oath of office in saying that I will lawfully do my job and follow the commandments of what I am being commanded to do by those authorities that can command me to do so.
Okay, so what does that mean for the people who travel here? What does that mean for them?
Well, there's essentially, Teddy, like I stated earlier, travel is permitted, right? I mean, travel is still permitted. The borders are not locked down. The governor's order is to shelter in place at home, but travel is permitted for essential purposes, and all other ordering. They are ordering the cessation of all non-essential travel. So, determining what is essential and non-essential is available through this order. And I think, Zach, do you know if this order is online? Where was this order at?
Yes, it is. If you go to it's coronavirus.idaho.gov, that's the governor's website on this, and it is posted at the very top.
So, Teddy, this entire order, it consists of, there is a cover page, and then there is an additional 10 pages of documentation that are followed with that cover page, Teddy.
Uh-huh.
If you would do me any sort of favor whatsoever, and at least look at that order, and I would like to talk to you further about this, Teddy.
No.
I don't want this discussion to end here.
Well, I don't look. I'm free to. I mean, listen. And first and foremost, I want you guys to know something. Jason, I've known you for several years. Zach, I've seen you in passing, but I want you to know that I not only care about the community, but I love the community, and I love you guys. And Zach, you know where I'm coming from when I'm talking about the Torot of Pesach. I mean, it is not an institution of man. It is something that is in authority over all man. And so the Torah is not to be governed by governing authorities in the realm that we live in this world. And that's why...
And that, there are certainly points at which I would say I will refuse to,
No, and I understand. No, I'm just saying that I want you to understand that I love and care about you guys because the Torah tells me to. And I would never put anybody in jeopardy if I felt there was a danger, just like I've already told everybody in an email I sent out, if you're sick, don't come here. And we had people canceling left and right. And they were up in, so, I mean, it's not like we're not concerned or anything, and that's kind of what it makes it sound like, is that we're not concerned. But everybody's focus, because you guys work for the law, is that the law of the state of Idaho be enforced. And I understand that. That's your job. I also have a job. And Go ahead.
But I'm also concerned about occure, right?
What's that?
Dedication of life. And that's kind of what this is designed for. And I would, and I guess my request again is to go back and pray and to find out whether there's a way to, for you to, within your conscience, find a way to reconcile your obligations, which, my reading of one's obligations, that preservation of life is sufficient to override some obligations that exist otherwise.
Right.
Not because government is saying so, but because this is the right thing for your community and for the community of Fremont. And I believe you when you say that you love and care deeply for all of these communities.
As well do I, Teddy. As well do I.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's getting an argument, point of argument at all.
Right. Well, I want you to know, my phone's always open. All you gotta do is ring the doorbell if you want to come inside. And again, I'm trying to fulfill both my obligations as best as I can. And if that falls short, what I am going to do though, so with your permission, is to the people on our email list, this conversation, I want to forward it to them so that they can decide for themselves. Are they, because they're now it's come to, even they may be in some type of, breaking some type of law as well, and in danger of being fined or arrested or whatever, which is just, to me, is, when I read the Constitution, I'm looking at this order, it doesn't line up. I think it could be not only argued, but I think it could also be, unlawful. The order can be unlawful, according to my constitutional rights, or not mine, but everybody's constitutional rights. So you said it was at coronavirusidaho.gov, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then and it's at the top of the page, I think Zach said.
It says statewide stay-at-home order in effect, and you can click through, and they have a copy. You can view the PDF. They have some frequently asked questions, and they have they do have some guidance for churches.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, I think. Anyway.
So, Teddy, I will say this, and like I said, we've had our religious conversations previously, and I will say this, and I've been praying multiple times a day for a long time, and I will add this. I will definitely add this to my prayer, and look for guidance as well. And that's all I'm looking for is guidance. Mm-hmm. But I will let you know that I will add that to my prayers with you as well. And so just know that no matter what comes of this, I think I don't think we're going to stop praying for each other, man.
Right. All right.
Okay. So,
okay.
And I would echo what Zach said, and I know you're going to. I know you're going to pray and pray some more, man. Pray
right.
some more. Okay?
Well, I'm not only going to pray. Like I said, we got through praying the other day, and the building shook. I kid you not. It was like right after we prayed. And what echoes in my mind right now is Devarim or Deuteronomy chapter 4, when it said, "And now, O Yisrael, listen to the laws and the right rulings which I am teaching you to do, so that you live, and shall go in and possess the land which Yahweh your Elohim of your fathers is given you. Do not add to nor take away from the command I give you And I mean, it's directly connected to living, and so it
in the New Testament, Romans 13:1-7.
Mm-hmm.
A friend said this to me, and I'm sure you have the scriptures there at your fingertips. I'm sure, right?
Of course I do.
Yes, I knew you would. I knew you would. When I had this conversation with my friend the other night, and he sent these scriptures to me,
Mm-hmm.
and in the scriptures, in Romans, verse on number 7, it says, "Render to all what is due them. Tax to whom tax is due, custom to whom custom, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor."
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I guess maybe this is a conversation you and I need to have on a separate occasion, and I know my prosecutor's got things to do.
Right?
But here's the deal. He sent this to me, and he said, because like you've reached out to people and you've talked to people, and I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand more. And he said, read these scriptures and let your friend know, and bring these scriptures to him and remind him of these.
Right. Well, I'm very familiar with the passage, and we can talk about that after a bit because, we can just go back and forth because when it comes to the Brit Kadashah,
we could, but that's
not
why we're on the phone.
Well, yeah, right. When it comes to the Brit, which is the New Testament in English, our view is that the New Testament never, not once, contradicts any command in the Old Testament. It's just a play on English words, and that English word law, there is no Hebrew definition for that in Torah. Torah doesn't mean law. And so everywhere where they see that word law, they think it means that thing that Moses gave, and that's just not true. There's many different words that have been translated from Hebrew into that one word law, and we could just go round and round. But when I read the Hebrew New Testament, it lines up perfectly with Yahweh's commandments, this being one of them. So,
like I said, that is obviously a discussion for another time. But that was something that he said. Bring this up with your friend. So that being said, Teddy, I think I was going to end my part with please pray upon this more, and then we need to, you and I, or I don't know if Zach, I can talk to Zach later about maybe joining in again. I don't know, but you and I need to continue these conversations if you're okay with that.
Sure.
Okay. Zach, do you have anything else?
No, thank you, and thanks for being willing to talk with us. I do appreciate it.
All right. May Yahweh bless you guys, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Teddy, I'll talk soon, either through text or via phone. One of the two. We'll talk soon.
All right. Shalom.
All right. Thank you.